Hey everyone, how are you today? Welcome back to the Cheeky Couch Podcast. Today we're getting into episode number 4 of Real Housewives of Salt Lake City. If you missed it, I already have episodes 1, 2, and 3, both on my YouTube channel and on the Cheeky Couch Podcast itself, which you can find at Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, anywhere podcasts are available. If you guys wouldn't mind, if you are enjoying this podcast, please don't forget to give me a rating and a review. I cannot stress enough how much it helps me. I love doing this podcast. Currently, it's not monetized, which is totally fine. This is definitely a passion project for me, but it would be awesome to be monetized one day. And honestly, it just helps me out to kind of get a bigger reach so that my podcast actually pops up in its category. It can't do that without your guys' rating. So if you want to do me a favor, it's completely free. Please throw me a rating over at Apple Podcast. And of course, don't forget to actually download the episode so that you do not miss one. Like I said, we're getting into episode number 4 of Real Housewives of Salt Lake City today. We previously left off with the girlies having a fight, specifically Heather. Heather and Whitney are going at it over these rumors and whether Heather was there courtside with Whitney hearing this Angie girl talking about them. It was getting heated. Let's jump into it. The episode begins with Heather screaming, "F you!" to Whitney and storming off. Jen Shah goes chasing after Heather. Whitney says, "Thank you, I'd love to be effed," or something like that. Again, Whitney is so freaking drunk. It's hilarious. Meredith goes to Whitney and is like, "What is going on? What's happening?" Whitney says she's lying about the fact that she was there when Angie first told them about the rumors about Lisa sleeping with a man for jazz tickets. In Heather's confessional, she says tonight was supposed to be about hot girls in lingerie eating chunks of meat. I disagree with you. The party name was literally like Garbage Trash Whores. I think this is pretty on par for Garbage Trash Whore type of party. I think you're bound to end in a fight like this, so I think it actually totally works. Whitney is sobbing. She's doing that cry where you can't get a word out, or you can only get a word out at a time. It's just like that. It's actually extremely painful to listen to, but she's drunk, she's sobbing. Hey, we've all been there, okay? The best of us have anyway. But what's interesting here is Whitney, throughout the blubbering, does say that she feels like this ties in with her abuse of people kind of just using her to get what they want. Again, we don't know the details of the abuse, and I don't want to know. That is personal to Whitney. But something about this, along with the alcohol, is definitely triggering her and maybe making this a little more intense for her. But at the same time, Heather is just taking the brunt of it out of nowhere. So I understand Heather being pretty upset as well. So Heather comes back out. They're screaming at each other. Heather's like, "Don't call me a liar. You called me a liar. I'm not a liar. If you're too drunk right now to be cognizant of the situation, of what you're doing, or if you don't know all the facts," in a drunken, sobbing Whitney says, "Well, the facts are Angie. Let's call Angie. I knew this Angie woman would come back up in this." They were just showing her a little too much without her really having many talking scenes on camera. I mean, they were referencing her way too much for her not to play a big part in this season. I think we all kind of saw that coming. But basically, this all comes down to Angie. Do you guys think that they will replace Jen Shah with this Angie character? I'm really curious. In front of Jen Shah, Heather says, "I don't care who Lisa fucked. I don't care who Meredith fucked. I don't care who you fucked. I don't care who I fucked. All I cared about is I wanted us all to come together for Jen Shah, because I'm sorry, but she's facing 50 years in prison." And Jen Shah's just like all the blood drains from her face. She looks down. Awkward. Okay? Awkward. Heather's just frustrated that the entire evening has become about Meredith, Whitney, Lisa, and honestly Heather now. So Heather says, "Get focused." Whitney says, "No, you get focused because you were fucking loaded that night." I don't know. Did we need this much information here? I mean, I'm annoyed that we're not all just chalking this up to Whitney being absolutely wasted. I don't know that this is valid information. I just don't. So then they're screaming in each other's faces, and next thing you know, Heather grabs Whitney and kind of chucks her to the side. If she was less careful, if she had more force, Whitney would have went through the frickin' window, okay? Whitney would have flew out that window. I think it's blinds there. It's got to be a window. She could have thrown her through the window. She didn't, and that's not what she was trying to do. And she used a decent amount of force to throw her friend. But at the end of the day, not a good look. And then, of course, for like a final dramatic scene, Heather says, "You lost me, bitch. You lost me forever." Whitney's so wasted. She's like, "You didn't lose me, Heather." Heather's like, "No, you lost me, bitch. You lost me." I'm like, she's wasted. Cut her a break. Can I just say, I can't believe we haven't said this yet. Jen Shah is so cinched up. She is so cinched up in this corset. I do not know how this woman is breathing, okay? Or her ribcage hasn't given in. This is a proper corset cinching, okay? This is Dita Von Teese level. This is no joke. This is Betty Page level. It's gorgeous. It is. I love me a good corset. Lisa goes to Heather and is like, "Listen, I just want to say I appreciate you. I appreciate you, our friendship. Thank you, for sticking with me." And Heather claims she didn't do it. She said she's never had a single conversation with anyone here about Lisa's marriage. Do I believe it? I don't know that I believe it. I don't know what I believe, I suppose. It's just Whitney's so wasted, but it's also the fact that she's so certain that she's kind of believable, even though she's kind of, shit-faced. But then also, I don't see Heather being a real big shit talker. But Lisa and Heather did have their problems season 1. So I don't know. Who do you believe? I don't know who I believe. And then Jen Shah shares that she's flying home to New York tomorrow night on the red eye for her trial and shit. I would think you'd want to be with your family. I don't know. It just seems, or I think it's the mock trial that she's going to. Or is it the real trial? I don't know. But I'm shocked she's in this party house situation and not with her family or her legal team kind of prepping for what's about to happen to her. I don't know. This just seems like a misstep to me. Lisa says, "It's cool. I love you. I love you. I gotta go to sleep. I gotta call John. I gotta call John." We have another classic Lisa has to call John moment, which I live for. So it's 2 a.m. in the house, okay? These women can stay up. I do have insomnia. I can stay up all night, but if I'm drinking, I can't. I gotta go to bed. I gotta go to bed by 1 a.m. I just have to. If I'm sober, I'll be up all night. If I'm drinking, I gotta go to bed. So I give it to these women. I honor them, okay? And I respect them. I respect their party game. Meredith, Jen Shah, and Heather are all up. And we get to meet Crystal Pussy. Sorry if that word offends you. I embrace it. I love it. I think it was assumed that this woman was here to be an exotic dancer, but that's not true. She's an instructor. Jen Shah takes great offense. No, in a jokingly way. But she's like, she's not here to dance. She's an instructor. Jen Shah's like, she's not performing. She's an instructor. And fun fact, Miss Crystal Pussy just so happens to be Jen Shah's makeup artist. So Jen Shah's really getting some bang for her buck here. I don't know how she has any bucks for a makeup artist or for an instructor. I digress. She does. So she's here to instruct them on how to twerk. What a business, Talk about a double whammy. That's a makeup artist I would hire. And I just have to say, in the first second that I saw Crystal Pussy, after 2 seconds, I didn't think this, but in the first second, I could have sworn this was Trisha Paytas. I thought she was bringing Trisha Paytas out. And I was like, how did Trisha Paytas yet again scam her way onto a television show? I was excited by it, but it wasn't it. It's not her. It's Crystal Pussy, okay? Show some respect. So it's the next morning, and Heather has woken up to these torn pieces of paper all over her bedroom floor. Whitney tore up Heather's friendship card all over her floor, okay? As her last way to get her back, we get this little shot of Whitney, it says like 9 hours earlier, saying like, "Oh, I know how to get her back," and like she goes and tears up the friendship card, which I'm sorry, I live for that level of petty. And I think there's something kind of special with girl friendships like this. Like, this is something you do to a best friend, Anyone else would see it as juvenile, but in a best friend relationship, it's kind of like, seriously? You tore up our best friend card? Like, seriously? Please forgive my cat. She's sneezing right now. She has allergies, and fall has not been kind to her so far. Oh my gosh, honey, are you okay? That's little Miss Bella, so please forgive us. The friendship card says, "Heather, no words needed here. Bad weather, no matter what." Because that was their little team name together, Whitney and Heather. So Heather goes out on the patio to sit with Meredith. Then we see Jen Shah going into the kitchen, and she's hugging Whitney. Why does Jen Shah have a fur coat still? I guess they don't take... I guess they technically haven't taken her things at this point yet, right? Like, so it's the nerve, okay? It's Erica and the earrings for me. It's that vibe. The nerve to wear a fur coat when you bought it with vulnerable people's money that you scammed them out of. It's just the nerve. But I guess technically she's probably supposed to appear innocent and as though her life hasn't changed, and I don't know. I really can't deal with it. Is this woman in so much denial? She just has to be in denial at this point, right? Whitney's talking to Jen Shaw, and she's sharing that today she's going to go speak with her sister and her brother. I believe they're technically her stepsister, stepbrother. I think they all share the same father, who we remember from season 1. You know, it's not been made abundantly clear who she suffered this abuse from, and I don't want to speculate, but just, you know, side note, I guess, they do all share the same father, who we know struggles with addiction, which I hate for him, but there's that. Or I guess technically it wouldn't be step brother sister, it would be half brother sister, sorry. And Jen says, you know, this has been a great little breakaway, but now she has to go home and she has to get back in trial mode. I can't believe she went on this trip. I really can't. With, like, when you're leaving tomorrow on, like, a red-eye to New York, I can't believe it. Whitney pulls up to the house, and she is greeted by her half-brother, Curtis. Curtis welcomes Whitney with a big hug, and I'm sure it means so much to Whitney. It just seems really healing for her. I obviously have nothing snarky to say about this situation, so I'm going to keep it brief. I do think he gave her amazing advice, and he said, you know, it's okay to move on. It's okay to just move on. Not that she won't have work to do on herself to kind of heal it, but he almost like gave her that permission she probably won't give herself, that she can move on. She says, you know, it's not serving me. It's okay. I'm just so happy Whitney did this when she was in Arizona. This was so important for her, I'm sure. And she almost gained more family here doing this. You know what I mean? And her support system has just gotten so much bigger. And I'm just really happy for Whitney being on this healing journey. So now we're back at the house with everyone still there. And they are sitting down for a very awkward breakfast. In Lisa's talking scene, she says she called John to calm her down, and after a Kit Kat and a burrito, she realized that this weekend needed to be about Jen. Which, like, hey, whatever it takes. A Kit Kat and a burrito does myself some wonders, too. Someone said, I didn't catch who said it, but someone said because it's raining in Arizona, and it, like, never rains in Arizona, they said the heavens are crying because Jen is leaving. Quite possibly it's all of Jen's victims' tears, you know, from all the money she stole, but I digress. Jen sits down and says she had a full-on anxiety attack this morning. I'm sure she did. It's stressful. She shares she's going for another mock trial, but this time she gets to hear her side, her defense. Last time she heard the other side, the opposing side, and she's traveling by herself. I'd be so nervous someone would take a picture of me in the airport with all this going on. And Jen shares that her lead trial attorney, Priya, told her not to get Botox. She's going to need her not to get Botox, I guess, to show more emotion and to, you know, so you're not so stoic in the face. Botox does have that effect. That's why I love it. I'm due for you can see that movement? Yeah, I don't want that. I want that shit to be flat. It is a little interesting hearing, like, attorneys and things recommend when you're, like, being accused of something. Then Whitney gets back to the house and joins everyone at the table. Super awkward. She hasn't talked to Heather yet. Everyone's helping Jen pack, and she is off. She is off to fly to New York. Does this not... I know it's only been like 2 episodes, but this feels like the longest girls' trip, and they're like only in Arizona. It's not like they're in Fiji or something. So I can't believe they're still in this house. This has been such an exhausting trip. They get back in the house. Lisa starts crying. She's like, it's just exhausting. I need to take a nap. Heather says, yeah, I'm going to do the same thing. And then, like, over their shoulder, Meredith and Lisa have a hug in the hallway. They're hugging. Is this the end of the fight? I hope so, because honestly, I'm sick of this storyline. We need to move on. And it's really sweet. I know they've been besties for a long time. I hate that they had this nasty falling out. I hope they can just patch it up. I hope they're able to just patch it up and move on. They don't need it. It's stupid. Let's move on. And again, if your bestie can't say that you fucked half of New York, who can? You know, someone has to. I'd rather it be my bestie than a stranger. And honestly, I think Heather and Whitney should have hugged at that moment too. They're just standing there witnessing it. This is a time to just... They could have reset right there. They could have been like, let's reset. Let's reset because now they're making up and we're still going to be fighting about who told the truth about these rumors. You know, it's stupid. Hug and make up. So the girlies are all done with their naps. They're going out to dinner. Did anyone else catch this? The girls walk into the restaurant and in the background of them, there are these men with their phones trying to like get a picture or film it or something. And there's this guy like blocking their phones like crazy. He's like blocking it, trying to make sure they don't get a shot. This was fascinating to me. I was just like, oh my God, I've never seen that. Or at least I've never noticed it in the history of Housewives, someone blocking people's cameras to not get a shot of them. I thought that was really, really interesting. I'm like, was this really an important dinner to block the shot of? I mean, perhaps they didn't want people seeing Meredith and Lisa at the same table just yet, because it would be assumed that, you know, the fight was over already. But yeah, definitely check that out if you haven't seen it. It's at the about the 25-minute mark into the episode. And honestly, kudos to the guys who are trying to get pictures of them because they are working hard. And kudos to the guy who's blocking the shots because he's blocking 2 cameras. He looks like one of those car dealership balloon guys that are just kind of like flopping in the air. Like that's what he looks like. It's funny. They order fancy tequila. Someone pops confetti at them, I guess, because they bought an expensive bottle of tequila. I mean, I feel like they drink this shit in every episode. I don't think they needed a popper. I love the enthusiasm. And of course, Lisa orders a Diet Coke too. That's my girl. Diet Coke Nash, where are you? Please stand the fuck up, okay? Stand the fuck up for Diet Coke Nation. Meredith proposes that they all choose a single word that they're proud of or something, or a single meaningful word that they can toast to. So that's fun. Love these moments. This is kind of something you do at a finale, though. I think it's a little odd timing to do something like this, but maybe because the trip was kind of all about growth and just kind of healing and also wishing Jen off to her big trial. Maybe it kind of is the vibe. Lisa says love, Heather says friendship, and then Miss Whitney says honesty, and I was like, oh shit, here we go. We're gonna get into this tonight. They do a cheers. Whitney has a cutscene saying, we've still not spoken, Heather and I, and I'm not lying. I'm telling the truth. She's lying, and we still need to deal with it. Randomly, Meredith shares that she lived in Scottsdale, Arizona for like a year of her life, and she just like has not brought it up this entire episode. She said she didn't think about it till now, but I guess if you're someone who's lived in multiple places, that kind of like happens to you, I suppose, and I think she's lived in quite a few areas, right? She shares that her sister had chronic bronchitis and their father moved them here when they were younger, moved them to Arizona to help dry out her lungs. I didn't know about this. That is so scary. I can't believe it was so bad that they like had to move to a different climate to like dry out her lungs. My gosh, being a parent is stressful. That's crazy. And Meredith shares a sweet story of her father. There was a restaurant there that she loved, and it was kind of this Wild West restaurant. And if you wore a tie, they would cut your tie there. And so her father would always wear a tie for her because it was so funny that they would cut his tie. And that's such a sweet memory. I'm so happy she has these fond memories of her father. As we know, her father did pass last season. It was a really hard time for her. That was the whole drama last season. Did she go to the service or whatever? But anyway, I'm happy for her that she has that nice memory. Side note, these episodes have been so heavy. I'm going to need just some lighthearted goofiness coming forward soon, okay? There's been a lot of death. There's been a lot of abuse. There's been Jen Shah is a scam artist stealing from old people. I need to cut loose, people. Come on. Come on, Salt Lake City. Don't let me down. So Heather gets up to go to the restroom, and Meredith asks Whitney how she's feeling about last night. Whitney's almost already in tears. She's almost already crying, and she says she's really hurt. And you can see the look on her face. This bitch is pissed. This is a different level. This is like, oof. This is heavy. She feels betrayed. She feels crushed because Whitney was doing something that was really hard for her. She was standing up for the truth. She was being honest and kind of putting herself in a bad situation. And Heather turned around and called her a liar. And Whitney still claims that she's not lying and she's telling the truth. So she is really, really hurt. And then, of course, Heather comes back to the table at that, like, exact moment, and she's like, what did I miss? Because here's Whitney. She's, like, streaming tears, pretty much. She's trying to, like, suck the tears back into her face. Whitney says, I was just talking about how last night you put me in a really difficult situation. I needed you. You weren't there for me, and even instead of being there for me, you actually hurt me really, really deeply. The more I think about it, this really makes sense to me, as to why she would be so hurt. I mean, obviously it's painful. Like, anyone would be hurt by this, but I think it strikes an extra chord with Whitney. And I hate to say this, but I remember moments last season with Whitney's father where it felt like he was a little gaslighty, a little manipulative, with him wanting to really take care of him almost fully, pay for certain things, and then, kind of guilt her when he doesn't get his way. I mean, and she did so much for him. She's done so much for him. And honestly, more than we even know. Any child who has a parent who struggles with either substance abuse or some sort of just many different types of disorders, even personality disorders, certain ones, you do things that people would never know that you've done for them, because it's just something you just almost feel responsible. I mean, it's your parent. They brought you into this world, and when you kind of grew up that way, it takes a very long time for some people to kind of switch that off in your brain and go, this is not my responsibility. I don't have to do this. And this is wrong. And they're treating me wrong. I've been in situations like that where, honestly, it wasn't until my 30s that I learned that I was being treated wrong, It's just something you get so numb to. So for her to finally have this realization of these horrible things that she suffered, she's probably really, really raw in this department, and she's like, no, I'm not going to let anyone do this to me anymore. Even if Heather didn't even mean to do it, if she's just mistaken, even if there is just a confusion, it won't feel like that to Whitney, So I feel for both Heather and Whitney. Unless Heather really is lying, that's shitty. Whitney says, let's be real. We've had many conversations about Lisa before between us. Heather freaks the fuck out. She's like, no, we haven't. Not about blowies for jazz ticket basketball seats, courtside seats. Whitney looks her dead in the face and says, yeah, we have. I don't know, Heather. It's kind of seeming like you possibly may have. And let's be honest, you and Lisa were not the best of friends. Girl, I love me some Heather. I love me some Whitney. Honestly, I love the whole cast, minus Jen Shah. It will pain me to know that she's lying, but I'm kind of gearing towards she's lying. I don't know. And now Lisa's freaking out because they keep saying over and over and over, Lisa gave a blowy for courtside seats. Like, they just keep saying it. It is a lot. Lisa's like, can we please stop? It's, like, really upsetting me. Like, it's so obviously not true, and they just keep repeating it. She probably knows her sons are going to see this. I mean, it's painful. Heather says, like, can we stop? Like, this whole trip was about Jen and how she's leaving on a plane all by herself, all alone, to face this huge battle. And, like, you're making this all about this situation. And Whitney snaps right back and is like, now you're using Jen as a way to, like, basically get out of this. Like, you're using her situation. At this moment, it does feel that way just because Jen's no longer here. We don't need to still really be concerned about Jen's well-being on the trip. You know what I mean? Like, sure, be concerned about the fact that she's going to New York and blah, blah, blah. But it doesn't really need to affect the conversation at this point because she's just not there. This is the time to have the conversation. And then, in my opinion, Heather goes too far. She's like, you've made this whole trip about you. Even the first dinner, you were crying about your childhood abuse and, it was supposed to be about Jen and you made it all about you. I think there are certain moments in life where things might not go as planned. Sure, you planned this for Jen Shah, but Whitney's really going through something right now, and she was also in town to see her siblings that she, like, literally has never seen. And they had just done, the cow coochie drink and that little thing, that healing process. So clearly it was probably really raw and at the top of her mind. And, like, there's never a good time to talk about those types of things. It's never perfect, There's always something going on. And she just really needed support. She needed to share why she was going to go see her siblings. So it was a low blow. It was inappropriate. It was uncalled for. And it's making me question Heather even more than I already was. And just like I said earlier, the card got brought back up. Heather may have laughed it off at the time, but I knew that shit was going to come back up. That hurt Heather. She says, you ripped up my friendship card. You knocked shit over. and she seems to believe that hurt her just as much as she hurt Whitney by calling her a liar. So I don't necessarily think it's comparable, but hey, that's how it is in Heather's mind. I don't know, you guys. I'm a little surprised at how aggressive Heather's being about this. Lisa even says it in her talking head. She's like, Heather is totally not aware right now of how insensitive she's being towards Whitney's situation. I completely agree. And I know she's smarter than this. She's been through a divorce. She's been through an unhappy marriage. I'm shocked at how insensitive she's being to her cousin. And it has me so confused. I don't know who to believe here, but I don't know. I don't think Whitney's lying. I really don't. Like, Heather's full on screaming at Whitney. She says, "You're up a river without a paddle. Stop." Like, she yells at her. It's like, why are you yelling at her? She's telling you that she's hurt. She's hurt. She's not even saying she's mad at you. She's saying she's hurt. And I don't know. Do feelings make Heather uncomfortable? Is that, like, hard for her? I have a friend who, talking about feelings and stuff, it is really hard for them. I mean, I can see their skin crawling, and I'm someone who's extremely vulnerable. I'll say however I'm feeling at any time or anything like that, and I know I make them uncomfortable on accident all the time because I'm that way. So I don't know if it has something to do with the way Heather was raised, or from being in the Mormon church, or from her divorce, or what it is. But her skin is crawling. She's getting the F out of here. She's screaming back at Whitney saying, all you do is talk about feelings. All you do is talk about feelings. And, there are just some moments in life where you're going through shit, Yeah, they can last years, and it might be annoying, but that's your cousin, she was abused. Hang in there for her. Give her that time. There's no perfect time for her to tell you about how she's feeling. I just think this is so unfair. So anyway, they're not getting anywhere. The food comes. They decide to table it and just enjoy dinner. And I don't blame them because that food looks delicious, okay? Meredith says this is like our last night. Tomorrow's our last day. Can we please just have fun? Whitney agrees, so we'll see. We will see where the night takes us. They're back at the house. They're in their little jammies, and Lisa finds cheesecake. It's the best thing that's ever happened to her. She also has a Diet Coke in a styrofoam cup. Love that for her. Do you think she ordered another Diet Coke before she left the restaurant? Do you think it's leftover Diet Coke? Where did she get this? Is it even from the restaurant? Did they make them stop for a Diet Coke? I'm sorry. I love to track her Diet Cokes. So they're all sitting around. Meredith is handing out some Meredith Marks merch, it looks like. She got them hats that have, like, FBI emojis on it in reference to when they all thought that she was feeding information to the FBI about Jen Shah. It's so funny to me. I think that's actually a really funny joke. It's a good gift. It's interesting watching this. Okay, so now they're kind of all talking about Jen Shah, and Lisa says she just feels the way that she's been so positive means that Jen will have a good outcome with, like, the trial. And I'm like, she's facing 50 years in prison. You guys are in such delusion. I mean, this is delusional. This is a serious crime. I can't believe how little they believe that she's guilty. Like, I really think they don't think she's guilty. It's so odd. And then they start talking about Stuart, if you remember. I mean, of course, I'm sure you remember. We've seen Stuart before all this popped off. Remember they went, like, walking in the snow, talking about how proud they are of everything they've built for their children. They've done it together. Like, it's super weird. Stuart has pled guilty. Meredith says the odds are Stuart's not on Jen's side, which I mean, it's in these situations, it's every man for themselves, 100%. Oh my God, this is stressful. Stressful. And the women seem in shock. And I'm like, hello, these people are facing Stuart, was up to 70 years, and I think it's down to 30 years in prison. When you're doing that much time, yeah, you're going to flip and try and get yourself out as much as you can. You just will. And they basically end with that. They say they all miss Jen. They hope she had a good time. I will have the 5th episode up this week on regular schedule. I'm sorry, the past week and a half, I've had baby showers, weddings. But going forward from here, we'll be right back on schedule. And coming up this week also, I think actually tomorrow, I will have part 1 and part 2 of the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills reunion recap episodes to get us ready for the 3rd, okay? I am so excited for that, especially because we have so much tea coming out right now, like while it's airing. It's going to be good. So I will see you guys again tomorrow, most definitely. Don't forget, if you missed episode 3, it's also already up. If you could please subscribe to my YouTube channel. Give the video a thumbs up. If you're listening on Apple Podcast, I would love if you could download my podcast, give it a rating, and leave me a review. It helps me so much. Again, both on YouTube and on Apple Podcasts. This is 100% not monetized. I do not make a penny from this podcast right now. So any help you guys could give me to just earning a little bit on that, I would so appreciate you. Thank you guys for being here today, and I will see you in the next episode. Bye.